Hi, my name is Tomas Rodriguez. I'm a graduate student at the University of Florida in the Ecological Restoration Program. Today's Forest Resource Information Systems graduate presentation will cover the topic of forecasting Florida panther population trajectories based on trending human community growth and urbanization in South Florida.
I'll start with a brief introduction on the Florida panther and its challenging set of circumstances. The Florida panther is a subspecies of puma that has been reduced to 5% of its original range. Its only refuge is in the swamps, hammocks, and pinelands of South Florida. In recent years, Florida panther populations have bounced back due to well-managed conservation efforts. Prior to the 1990s, there were approximately 20 Florida panthers remaining in the wild. The latest estimates suggest that their populations have climbed up to approximately 230 individuals. However, as human communities expand further out into the interior from both coastal ends, humans and panthers find themselves clashing within the same territories. A typical male Florida panther requires at least 200 square miles of habitat. GPS tracking has also shown us that male subjects allow up to 5 breeding females to reside within the same territory. During the 1800s and early 1900s, habitat loss coupled with hunting led to the panther's near extinction. Panthers were hunted and killed by settlers for sport or to protect livestock. During the same time, there was an anti-predator sentiment, and panthers were killed out of fear. As mentioned earlier, Florida panthers require large areas of suitable habitat to meet their social, reproductive, and energetic needs. The polygon borders in orange on the bottom right GIS map represents the currently known range of the Florida panther in South Florida. A population of 240 Florida panthers would require anywhere between 8,000 and 12,000 square miles of habitat and sufficient genetic diversity to avoid inbreeding as a result of small population sizes. A study in 2006 estimated that about 3,800 square miles were free for panthers to roam today. Conservation zones are critical to maintaining healthy biodiversity and wildlife protection. The Florida panther generally passes through and resides within several of these protected habitats in South Florida. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has even established a refuge to help protect this endangered species, also known as the Florida Panther National Wildlife Refuge. As you can see from the orange striped polygon on the GIS map in the center of the frame, the Florida panther's natural range is bordered within several protected areas, including Everglades National Park, Big Cypress National Preserve, and Fakahatchee Strand State Park, among other smaller conservation areas. The other lightly orange colored areas are scattered conservation zones throughout Florida. Among the many challenges facing the Florida panther, human population growth in Florida is projected to double by the mid-2000s. Scenarios which, based on current data-driven analysis from a collection of academic and professional organizations, such as the University of Florida Geoplan Center, use GIS analysis to illustrate the impacts of population increase and associated development on land use and water needs. The projected impact of development in agriculture could spell trouble for wildlife protection. As urbanization stretches further into the interior and across the state of Florida, fragile habitats that were once high in biodiversity may become disturbed, ultimately resulting in limited territory for the Florida panther to roam free. The trending precedence in habitat loss due to development in agriculture has always been a concerning factor for protecting Florida panther populations. For one, the Florida panther is a large carnivore whose diet consists of both small and large animals that require large territories to thrive and prosper. Florida panthers prey on a wide variety of species, such as wading birds, white-tailed deer, raccoons, American alligators, and more. Affected habitats also impact the population of animals that the Florida panther needs to survive. The red points on the GIS-generated map on the bottom right illustrates Florida panther mortalities that spans back more than a decade. The total number of roadside kills in 2019 were 23, down from 26 in 2018 and 24 in 2017. However, a record 34 Florida panthers were killed by cars in 2016, according to Florida Fish and Wildlife. While most human-involved Florida panther deaths are due to roadside kills in South Florida, several individually documented cases have occurred as far north as Central Florida. Incidentally, this raises an interesting question. Spatial constraints have obviously forced individual Florida panthers to migrate north beyond their natural range. Knowing that wildlife corridors have been used in the past to help extend the population of other animals, is this a viable solution for Florida panther expansion? Let's explore this further. Expanding and connecting conservation areas seems like an obvious way to go if we are to seriously consider increasing Florida panther populations. Florida currently manages approximately 10 million acres of conservation land. More recently, the state acquired an additional 2.5 million acres, which could be allocated toward wildlife sanctuaries. By expanding and bridging conservation zones into ecological pathways, the Florida panther could begin to migrate further north into new wildlife areas. The challenge, of course, being man-made barriers such as roads, highways, and canals. Whether they run, swim, or fly, wild animals need to move to complete their life cycles. We call their routes wildlife corridors. Looking closer at the GIS mortality map at the top right, you can see that many Florida panther deaths occur along roads and highways. Connecting wildlife populations separated by human structures has been a priority, and it required a little innovation. For one, highway corridors in Florida can help bridge the gap between some of these isolated conservation areas. In South Florida, I-75 is a major source for highway corridors across the Everglades. The same can be said about several other highways further north, which were constructed to create pathways for other large animals, such as the Florida black bear. On a separate conversation that I had with University of Florida GIS professor, Dr. David Fox, the possibility of reseeding new Florida panther populations further north was discussed. Translocation is usually a viable solution to ecosystem restoration when speaking in terms of flora, but more difficult to achieve with fauna that require a host of conditional environmental variables. Looking at conservation zones across Florida, a good candidate for translocation of the Florida panther could very well be Ocala National Forest. Covering 607 square miles, the Ocala National Forest has 4 wilderness areas designated by Congress as places where habitats are protected and managed to preserve their natural state. Having a smaller population further north could set up a scenario where these two isolated gene pools could later meet and interbreed, if migration becomes a possibility. And lastly, I'd like to speak a few words about climate change and sea level rise. In the decades ahead, population growth, along with the threat of rising sea levels, will make circumstances even more complicated for wildlife management. Sea level rise poses an interesting dilemma. As human populations move into higher elevation areas escaping decreasing land masses, what will happen to the Florida panther's last remaining refuge? Note the climate change projection on the top right. While a handful of models are warning us that we are at the point of no return. Other more conservative models project more time, less ecological damage, and lower risks of rising sea levels. As we have learned over the span of this semester, while GIS can produce a map of things in a place, GIS analysis lets us go further by asking questions about those things and about that place. This presentation was made possible thanks to publicly available data that was used to illustrate information about the Florida Panther's current status, trending projections about human communities in South Florida, and possible solutions to the ongoing challenges facing wildlife managers. The ultimate goal is to one day remove the Florida panther from the endangered species list. While it is difficult to forecast their population trajectories at the current moment, GIS analysis can help us better understand the spatial dynamics involved in order to reach more reliable future conclusions. The use of GIS technology promises to give Florida panther populations another chance through innovative methods, techniques, and possibilities.
And that concludes my graduate presentation. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.